Society has a simple explanation for people who walk away from their families. It calls them cold, ungrateful, selfish. It assumes that something must be missing inside a person who chooses distance over blood. Because from the outside, family is supposed to mean safety. It is supposed to mean belonging. It is considered to be the one place where you don't have to earn your right to exist. And yet, for many people, family becomes the very place where the self slowly disappears. Some lives look normal from the outside and feel unbearable from the inside. Families that appear functional, even loving, while quietly draining the people who live inside them. And when one person finally steps away, the world rushes to judge the act without ever asking what kind of pain could make someone do something so socially unthinkable. Carl Jung understood that this judgment misses the truth entirely. In his work with patients, he saw again and again that the people who broke away from their families were not the weakest ones. They were often the most conscious, the ones whose nervous systems refused to fully numb themselves to what was happening, the ones who could not pretend forever. Jung believed that families are not just collections of individuals. They are psychological systems. And like all systems, they operate according to rules, most of which are never spoken. These rules govern what emotions are allowed, what truths are forbidden, and which roles each person must play to keep the system stable. Stability, not health, is the priority. Within these systems, pain is rarely acknowledged directly. It is disguised, reframed, minimized. Abuse becomes discipline. Emotional absence becomes independence. Manipulation becomes concern. And over time, these distortions harden into a shared reality that everyone is expected to accept without question. Jung called this shared psychic field the family unconscious. It is not something anyone consciously agrees to. It is something people absorb. Children learn very early what gets them love and what gets them punished, not always with anger, but with silence, withdrawal, or disappointment. They learn which parts of themselves are welcome and which parts must be hidden. And in nearly every family, there is one person who struggles to fully adapt to these rules. One person who feels the tension that others ignore. One person who notices the contradiction between what is said and what is lived. One person who senses that something is wrong even when everyone insists that everything is fine. This is the person who eventually becomes the black sheep. Not because they want to be different, not because they enjoy conflict, but because their inner world refuses to cooperate with denial. Their body reacts. Their emotions surface. Their questions won't stay quiet. They experience anxiety, sadness, anger, or confusion, not because they are broken, but because their psyche is responding honestly to an environment that is not safe for authenticity. Jung referred to these individuals as the identified patient. The family points at them and says, "You're the one with the problem. You're too sensitive, too dramatic, too difficult, too emotional." And the tragedy is that this diagnosis often becomes internalized. The person begins to believe that if they could just fix themselves, the pain would stop. So they try. They try to explain themselves more clearly. They try to be more patient, more understanding, more forgiving. They learn to anticipate moods, to smooth over conflicts, to absorb emotional chaos so others don't have to feel it. They become caretakers, mediators, peacekeepers, often while their own needs go unmet. This hyper-awareness is not a gift. It is a survival strategy. It develops in environments where emotional unpredictability means danger, where reading the room correctly determines whether you are accepted or rejected, safe or targeted. The nervous system adapts by becoming exquisitely attuned to others while losing connection to itself. For years, sometimes decades, the black sheep holds on. They keep hoping that if they love enough, if they grow enough, if they heal enough, something will change. That one day the family will finally see them, finally hear them, finally acknowledge the pain. But then comes a moment that changes everything. It is rarely loud. It is not usually a final argument or dramatic confrontation. It is often quiet, subtle, a familiar dismissal, a boundary crossed without apology, a demand to minimize your reality one more time for the sake of harmony. And suddenly, something inside goes still. This stillness is not numbness. It is clarity. In that moment, the person understands, not intellectually, but in their body, that nothing is going to change. The system cannot afford to change because it depends on their silence, their flexibility, their willingness to carry what no one else will. And they realize that staying will require the permanent abandonment of themselves. Jung recognized this moment as the threshold of individuation. Individuation is not rebellion. It is not rejection for the sake of rejection. It is the psychological process of becoming who you actually are, separate from the projections, expectations, and unconscious needs of others. You cannot individuate while playing a role assigned by someone else's unresolved trauma. You cannot become whole while remaining split to keep others comfortable. And for some people, the only way individuation can begin is through distance. Walking away from family is not an impulsive act. It is the final step after countless internal negotiations. After years of trying to make the relationship work at the cost of one's mental health. It is not chosen lightly. It is chosen when every other option has failed. And when the decision is made, it does not feel victorious. It feels like grief. Because cutting off family means losing more than people. It means losing the future you were promised. The idea that one day things would finally be different. That love would arrive in the form you were taught to wait for. You grieve not only what was, but what never was, and what never will be. This grief is complicated by guilt. A deep, layered guilt that has little to do with wrongdoing and everything to do with conditioning. Society reinforces it relentlessly. Honor your parents. Forgive endlessly. Blood is thicker than water. These phrases are repeated without nuance, without curiosity, without any acknowledgement that some families are not safe places for the soul. What this guilt really says is this: your suffering is less important than our comfort. Jung rejected this idea completely. He believed that the psyche would not tolerate betrayal indefinitely. When a person repeatedly ignores their own truth to preserve external harmony, the cost eventually shows up as depression, anxiety, illness, or a pervasive sense of emptiness. The psyche rebels when it is ignored. He watched people destroy themselves trying to remain loyal to systems that were quietly killing them. And he came to a conclusion that remains radical even today. Your primary responsibility is not to your family, your culture, or your history. It is to your own psychological integrity. When someone leaves a family system, the system almost always responds defensively. Stories are rewritten. The person who left becomes unstable, selfish, or cruel. This narrative allows the family to avoid self-examination. And the person who left is finally forced to accept a painful truth. They were never seen as a full human being. They were seen as a function. Distance brings pain, but it also brings space. And in that space, something remarkable happens. The nervous system begins to settle. The constant vigilance eases. The body learns what it feels like to exist without threat. Thoughts become clearer. Emotions become more stable. For the first time, the person begins to experience themselves without the weight of the role they were assigned. Healing is not linear. There are days of peace followed by waves of grief. Some triggers arrive unexpectedly: a familiar tone of voice, a holiday, a smell from childhood. These moments do not mean the decision was wrong. They mean the body is releasing what it carried for years without consent. Over time, identity begins to form around choice rather than survival. The person learns what they actually like, what they value, what feels safe. They begin to build relationships that do not require self-erasure. This is where chosen family emerges, not as a replacement, but as a revelation. Chosen family is not bound by obligation. It is bound by presence, by mutual care, by respect. When someone shows up, it is because they want to, not because they have to. This changes everything. Love becomes something that nourishes rather than drains. Boundaries become normal rather than offensive. Jung observed that those who successfully individuated often became the most grounded and compassionate people in their extended systems, even from a distance. Not because they were superior, but because they stopped carrying the shadow for everyone else. They broke the cycle simply by refusing to continue it. Leaving does not mean you stop loving your family. It means you stop allowing proximity to destroy you. Love does not require access. Care does not require endurance. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step away and refuse to participate in harm. Think of it like pruning a tree. Dead branches are removed not out of hatred, but to preserve life. Sometimes you must prune the family tree to save your own roots. Jung understood this as an act of courage, not cruelty. The journey after leaving is demanding, but it is honest. And honesty heals. Slowly, the person who walked away becomes proof that cycles can end. That trauma does not have to be inherited. That consciousness can interrupt what history tried to repeat. If you are someone who left, or is standing on the edge of that decision, know this. You are not broken. You are not heartless. You are not ungrateful. You noticed what others denied. You felt what others minimized. You chose reality over illusion. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is disappoint their family to save themselves. Sometimes love looks like distance. Sometimes loyalty to your soul requires betraying the role you were assigned. The goal was never to be alone. The goal was to be safe, whole, free. And for some people, the only path to that peace is through the hardest goodbye they will ever say. That goodbye is not the end of the story. It is the moment your life finally becomes your own.